Hi, I'm Nastasia Schmidt,
And I'm Lee Roth.
and we are here to tell you about our upcoming free consent challenge, where we're going to teach you everything you need to know to decode consent in your daily life.
So we are consent educators, so we're really excited to be doing this.
And we are going to basically give you a bit of an overview of what this is about. We're going to tell you a little bit about us, why we created the consent challenge, what you can hope to learn if you join the consent challenge, and then we're going to give you a special bonus at the end if you stay the whole way.
Great. So we are 90s babies, and the movie Mean Girls was a really big thing for us in our teenage years. Maybe you've seen it. There's this scene where Coach Carr, the basically physical education teacher, says to the high schoolers, at your age, you're going to have a lot of urges. You're going to want to take off your clothes and touch each other. But if you do touch each other, you will get chlamydia and die. That's basically what my sex ed experience was like. It was our health teacher. It was a wrestling coach. Yeah, it was not good.
Great. Yeah, and I went to an all-girls Catholic school, and I mean, talking about sex officially was like really taboo, and all we learned was abstinence or STDs, so pretty similar. And then we actually met each other in college. We went to Dartmouth and were activists together. Just since then, now we are engaged to be married, so yay. But in college, we ran some student organizations together, and we were activists around LGBTQ issues, racism, and ending sexual violence.
So after we left school in 2013, we founded Spring Up, which works with youth and survivors, and we've been speaking to organizations and schools about sexual violence, organizing, diversity, and inclusion.
And if you want to learn more about that, head over to timetоспringup.org, just spelled out. I'm sure we'll include it on the bottom if you want to hear a little bit more about what we do.
So from there, we became pretty involved in the movement to end sexual violence in schools and universities.
Which is a really big problem. You may have heard about it more. Former President Obama really took it more seriously, and we're finding that it's, a really serious epidemic in schools, and so that was kind of a thing that we really focused on in our work and getting more involved in that movement. But in our work with kind of youth and survivors of sexual violence, we kept hearing these stories of tragedy and pain over and over again, and we started asking not just how can we react to the fact that this is happening, but how can we actually prevent it from happening in the future? How can we stop the next generation of people from having this problem so common in their schools? And we realized that consent and sex education can actually prevent sexual violence from happening in the first place.
Right. So in response to what we've learned, we wrote our book, Millennial Sex Education, and have been using that to present basically these ideas, the ideas that we shared in our workshops with youth and with anyone really who wants to learn about gender, consent, anything relating to those issues.
Yeah, and so since then, we've been able to speak at a lot of schools, at Yale, Dartmouth, Princeton, University of Michigan, Tufts, Occidental. Overall, I think...
Yeah, we've, speaking at conferences as well, we've had the opportunity to speak to university and high school students from over 50 schools. It's a problem everywhere. No one's really handling it well, and especially in our current climate, we really need to have the community accountability to step forward and, change these things in our own communities.
So if you want to learn more about our book and kind of how we came up with this program, you should check out our TED Talk about it, which we included the link below.
Cultivating a Culture of Consent. Oh, a garden of consent.
Yay.
Beautiful, nice.
Get to know us a little bit better. Our activism and work has been covered in a lot of different media, from CNN to the Chronicle of Higher Education. We're contributors on this issue.
To Huffington Post, Blavity, Feministing, Medium.
And we've been given a lot of really cool opportunities to kind of be a part of this movement. You may have seen us on stage at the 2016 Oscars with Lady Gaga.
And 49 other people.
Yes. Well, 48, I guess.
Yeah.
And then we were also featured in the award-winning documentary, The Hunting Ground.
Ooh, scary.
Scary.
College.
Yeah, and we were also published in the anthology We Believe You, Survivors of Campus Sexual Assault Speak Out.
Yeah, that sounds very young, yeah.
And so yeah, we've gotten a lot of opportunities to do this, spoken to a lot of people about this, and in our work with students, teachers, parents, and youth service providers, we keep facing the same misconceptions about consent.
Right. We can talk about sexual violence for years. We have. And if the conversation doesn't move past these misconceptions, we're not going to get anywhere. So we don't expect you to spend years of your life talking about this issue, even though I would assume, agree that it's a problem. Maybe it's a problem that has affected you or someone in your life, or that you would like to be a better resource to youth you may work with. Really anyone who may experience this, that you would hope to be able to be a positive resource to.
So we wanted to take the conversation beyond what sexual violence looks like into a real conversation about what consent looks like. And that's where these misconceptions about consent become really important. So, we live in a society that really often blames survivors of sexual violence and doesn't believe them that they were assaulted. And so, a lot of people will say, sex is complicated and it's all he said, she said, or blurred lines. And they use that to basically invalidate the experience that survivors have. And that's really messed up.
So a lot of sexual violence advocates would say, well, consent is simple. You can tell if you've said yes or no, or if someone has said yes and no. But it's not simple. It's complicated.
That's the reality. When you talk about what it actually looks like to be in a sexual experience, it's not as clear as black and white. It's not as clear as yes and no. It's an ongoing conversation. And so that's what we want to talk about in our consent challenge. And that is kind of the point of what we're doing. We want to decode the nuances of consent and teach our young folks and each other about how to express what we want while respecting the boundaries of our partners.
So just as kind of a teaser for what you can hope to learn if you sign up for our consent challenge this week, we're going to quickly go through 5 myths about consent and just kind of dive into those a little bit.
Right. So right now, debunking 5 misconceptions. And, we all want to have a sexy summer, right? And you cannot have sex without consent. So
listen up.
Yeah. Tell us in the comments section if you've heard any of these myths. We want to hear from you about what this looks like. So, number 1. We are supposed to tell youth that they need verbal consent for every single sexual thing they do, right? But how many of you have been told that this is unsexy or awkward or kills the mood? I mean, it makes sense, right? If I'm like, can I kiss you? Can I touch you here? Can I do this before I do anything that I do? It can kind of slow things down and make it a bit awkward, right? So in the consent challenge, we are going to talk about how we can talk through what we're doing and keep it sexy.
How to identify and respond to nonverbal cues and behavior to be able to tell if our partner is interested or not interested in what's happening.
Because it's not just about hearing the yes or no, it's also about being attentive and empathetic partners, right? Because that's what it takes, not just to technically have consensual sex, but to have good and positive sex, right? So that brings us to misconception number 2.
So, we tell people to be clear about what they do and don't want before they engage in sex, but how do you know if you want what you want if you haven't tried it before?
So in the consent challenge, we're going to talk about how to approach something that you've never done before, as well as how to maintain conversation, checking in throughout the experience so that you can, say if you feel uncomfortable, or you can stop whenever you want to. That kind of actually gives us the opportunity to try more things than we might have before, because we know that we have the ability to stop at any point.
So how many of you have ever thought, if I say yes or say that I want to try something at the beginning, I can't back out or say no later or as it's happening?
Well, this is myth number 3. It's really, really important that we see consent as an ongoing conversation. It's not just in the beginning, yes or no. It's something that we're checking in on throughout.
So lately we've been hearing about consent contracts, maybe a reference to 50 Shades of Grey, for any of you who have seen that, terrible model of consent, which is basically where one partner will ask the other to sign a contract saying that they consent to whatever happens that night.
Literally.
So this is not consent, and consent is an ongoing conversation.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of laughable. It's obviously not how it would work, but with the cues that we're giving people, it makes sense that that might be a strategy to make sure that you get, consent on paper. Okay, so myth number 4. We hear people feeling pretty uncomfortable about the fact that it's supposed to be impossible to consent if you've been drinking, right? Like, that's the law in a lot of different places. That's what a lot of people will say. If someone's been drinking, it's literally impossible for them to consent. But many of us feel more comfortable or confident or sexy when we've been drinking, and we hear this a lot, that this is just something that's normal.
Right, people often, drink and go out to meet people and to be social and to have a good time. And sometimes that leads to sex.
Right, and let's be real. While substances can be used to manipulate or coerce someone or drug them, the reality is that most hookups happen when people are drinking. And so we need to talk about how alcohol can affect the experience beyond just saying, no, don't drink and hook up. So that's something we want to explore in the consent challenges. How can we actually talk about alcohol and sexuality?
So myth number 5, final
one.
Yay. So sometimes people feel that, if you have maybe signed up for a hookup app, or if you've met someone on a dating site, or, if you've met up with someone who you met online, that there's an expectation that means that you are ready or want to have sex or hook up with them. But consent in sexual communication is different in the digital age. We're going to really dive into this, and let's not get into any of the details now. But yeah. it's different, it's complicated, and it's changing.
New for most of us.
It's changing really quickly.
Mm-hmm. But the reality is, just going to hit it home, you do not have to do anything that you don't want to, no matter where or how you met someone. It doesn't matter if they bought you dinner, if they got you gifts, if they took you out. We get that there's a lot of social pressure to feel like you owe someone something, but it's really important that we know that none of those things mean that you have to do something that you don't want to.
So those are our top 5, but go ahead and share any other myths or questions you have about consent in the comment section. We'll try to address those during our consent challenge, so that we can really also, meet you where you are, and bring that into the conversation.
And so
please sign up for our consent challenge, where we will decode consent in our and your daily lives with 5 lessons of consent that will leave you feeling confident in your ability to talk about this really complicated issue, to support the people around you, and to express your desires and boundaries in the world.
So you can click the link below and sign up on our website. We are really looking forward to hearing from you. And just so that you know, we're going to end the challenge, if you sign up, with an exclusive free live webinar with us, Nastasia and Lee.
Interacting with you.
Live. So that we can answer any of the questions and concerns you have in real time. So if any of the information that we share with you throughout the consent challenge is confusing, it makes you wonder about more, we want to make this space to meet you, kind of chat with you about any other questions you have, so that by the end of the challenge, we really, really do all know how to engage with consent in our lives.
And if you're really excited about this, we have a Facebook group, Millennial Sex Education. You can request to join, where you can join a community of people who are cultivating a culture of consent together, having these conversations. And yeah, please spread the word and invite people in your life to, young people, educators, health workers, anyone really who could benefit from this, because it will be available this week only.
Yes, for a limited time only, you can sign up for this free consent challenge.
Yeah.
And so finally, thanks to all of you who are still watching.
15
wow,
minutes.
Awesome. And now is the time for our special bonus. If you go to timetospringup.org, that's fully spelled out, springup.org/millennial sex education, just like on our book, Millennial Sex Education, right now, you can get a free copy of our ebook, Millennial Sex Education.
Yeah, so thanks for watching. We are Lee
and Nastasia,
and we look forward to seeing you in our consent challenge.
Thanks, bye!